What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome back to the Purple and Gold Bar Shows. I'm your host, Supreme Overlord, aka Mr. AI Man 3000, aka Purple and Gold Bars at your service. We are on the road to 500 subscribers. We are trying to push for that. Hopefully, we can make that 500 mark or dream a goal or a reality by the end of the calendar year. So please don't forget to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate your support. Now, we're going to be going over a couple things because I've seen a couple things and I'm a little Now, let's see. What do I got to get to? Uh-oh. Where's my notes? Where did I put my notes? We got the slides up anyways, so I think we should be able to go. But you know what? Give me 2 seconds, guys. I need to go get some water or something because I definitely didn't fill up my water bottle, and I know I'm going to need some. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, buddy, you're still good. Your leg's still good, buddy. All right, sorry about that, guys. Had to get a couple of bottles of water to fill up my water container. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. We will get right into it. We got a lot to talk about. Vikings, Steelers, Crook Park, Dublin, of course. A couple final points, things that I forgot to mention in the last live because even though I got all these notes scratched out or typed out, things that I kind of don't want to forget, I still forget a bunch of stuff, guys. So I do apologize for that. We will go over that. We'll go over the injury report as well as some controversy that seems to be coming out and some shade thrown towards Sean McVay's in that coaching tree thrown our way by Mr. Robert Saleh. So we're going to dive into it. I'll definitely pull up the article that goes into it, but man, oh man, it is a wild one. I hope you guys are doing good. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe as we are on the road to 500. And let's get right into it, guys. So Vikings have already traveled to Dublin. They left yesterday. Sorry, I'm trying not to run over my little pup because he likes to sit right at my feet when I do my lives. He's one heck of a support animal. But anyways, we got let's move on. So today we got today's lineup. We're going to talk about the Signal Gate 2.0, I guess you can call it. Robert Saleh comes up with some indirect shots at KOC, Sean McVay, and that coaching tree, claiming they do a really good job of legal signal stealing or whatever. We'll dive into it and we'll pull up the article and talk about it a little bit later. We're also going to talk about the our quarterback injury report updates, as well as some matchups to look up to and some bold predictions, of course. All right, let's jump into it. So where we are playing, guys, we are facing the first ever Dublin game. The first time an NFL game has been played in Dublin is going to be set for Sunday, September 28th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Sorry, it's going to be on NFL Network. Yeah, first it's Dublin, and then we're moving to London to face the Browns. So pretty fun, cool kind of like historic event. So it's always fun to see the Minnesota Vikings partake in that sort of stuff, right? But let's jump into it and let's see what we got for today. The first topic of the hour. We got to check the status of the Vikings. We're sitting at 2-1 on the season. We're coming off of a massive win, 48-10 over Cincinnati in week 3. We caused 5 turnovers that led to 31 points, which is massive. Isaiah Rodgers, the first ever 99.9 PFF rating ever given out. He had a pick six, a fumble, two forced fumbles, a fumble recovery for a touchdown. First ever pick six and fumble recovery for a touchdown for an NFL first. So we are riding high when it comes to this Minnesota Vikings defense. If you guys caught my hot take review last night, we watched Josh Metellus join Unk and Ocho on Nightcap, and they talked about the Minnesota Vikings, their offense, what went well against these Bengals, and more importantly, which I thought was the most important part, is when Josh Metellus gave us some insights on Brian Flores, why he is so good, why this defense is always coming up with new things and making it hard for others teams to kind of game plan for us. So if you haven't checked out that interview, I know that Nightcap dropped that specific segment already, so you don't have to go watch the full stream. So today, if you go to the Nightcap channel, you will be able to find just the interview with Josh Metellus, Ocho, and Ung. So go check that out. It is a phenomenal interview. I think it will give you guys a ton of confidence. Or you can go back and watch last night's stream, a hot take review, where we watch it in general, and I give you some of the comments in real time that I was feeling at the moment, right? So we are feeling good. It's time. Let's do a little bit of a NFC North check here. What do we got? We got the NFC North snapshot here. Green Bay sitting at 2-1. We don't know what I left that blank, or the generator left that blank for me because I hadn't put obviously we don't have any season ending records there, so it is still to be determined. Now we're sitting at second place, tied for first with Green Bay, 2-1. Detroit is nipping at the butts, but they've got a loss in the division. Chicago's got 2 losses in division, so they are bringing up the rear. And it looks pretty good if we're a Vikings fans. It looks like in Dublin we're looked to keep the pace or potentially take over the lead, depending on how this weekend plays out. All right, so we got Carson Wentz runs the Europe trip. That's the way I got this one started. Now, JJ McCarthy is still week to week with a high ankle sprain, and after hearing Kevin O'Connell's interview, it is definitely brutally obvious that JJ is only going to take over once he has a full week of preparation. Like he said, we're not going to just throw the kid and expect him to figure it out on after he gets cleared on a Saturday, for example. So I think that approach is a really, really good approach. That way, when JJ McCarthy comes back after this injury, he can take over and restart that journey of development, and hopefully everything turns out the way that I anticipated to. Now, Carson Wentz was a very, very efficient against Cincinnati. He had a 70% completion rating. He threw for 173 yards, 14 of 18 or 14 of 20. Sorry, I'm trying to, sometimes I get so much stuff, it's hard to see the images in my head because everything just keeps flooding in. But if I remember, it's pretty damn close. No interceptions. He took care of the ball real well. He took some sacks, but I wasn't too upset with a lot of the sacks that he took because some of those came on third and long. And even if they would have thrown it away, they would have been punting the ball anyways. So it wasn't a big deal. And sometimes getting that step back for the punter allows them to open up and really be able to, fit the ball where they want it and really play that punting game. And when we have such a strong special teams unit, that is probably a better situation than him trying to force a pass, maybe come up with an interception. So although people were upset with those sacks that Carson Wentz took, I was not phased and I was okay. Now we have gone ahead and addressed a little bit of depth because we did go sign Desmond Ridder and added him to the practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. So, my videos are ready. That's going to be good. Now, maybe I'm going to watch that. Maybe we'll watch it because I got a video rendering. I'm trying to get an opening scene or like little, intro video kind of generating here on the side, but I like the idea of us picking up a young guy that can kind of run the scout team and adds a little bit of depth here to our practice, because it's important to get good quality practices when we have a young guy like that that's a little bit mobile. We can potentially ask him to do a lot more. Maybe they'll do a little bit different types of simulations, stuff like that. So I'm happy with this pickup, although we know that Desmond didn't do a heck of a lot and has struggled to find a place throughout the years. But in KOC, I trust. So I'm hoping that with the guidance of him, Josh McCown, in that quarterback room, he can be brought up to snuff to really be a good, solid asset for our practice squad. So good things to see organizationally from the Minnesota Vikings. Now, we're dealing with some injuries, and it's definitely a next man up situation still. I know we've gotten Christian Darrisaw back, but Aaron Jones is on IR, and as a result, Jordan Mason stepped in last week, and it looks like he is, like I've been saying, he is the lifeblood of this offense. So Jordan Mason will continue to be our feature back, and hopefully even after Aaron Aaron Jones come back, I hope that the offense runs through him still. And as a result of Jordan Mason running so hard and opening up those that offense and other different possibilities, then it opens up Aaron Jones to perform, Cam Akers, if because we know that he's a savvy pass catcher, and kind of open up the skill set to other players because they are so focused on what Jordan Mason can do. And so I'm excited to see how Jordan develops over the next few games. I anticipate a big game from him this weekend, as I feel like he is the key to our victory, which is why I put him as my X factor on yesterday's live. Another big, oh, another big freaking point, another big news for us here, us Minnesota Vikings fans. We have a boost to our offense. We got Jordan Addison coming back. I know that AI generated image looks terrible because it looks like we got two Jettas back to back there. He's got a 31 in his shoulder and an 18 on. Regardless, I couldn't get it to generate properly with Jordan Addison, but Jordan Addison is back after his 3-game suspension for that DUI a couple years back. That slot and vertical stress is going to be off the chains. And with a struggling defense, although they have the raw talent, they still got TJ Watt. They got an aging big play Slay, right? They got guys that can make plays, right? Having Jettas out there and having Addison out there really taking the top off this team really opens up everybody, because they can't just bracket JJ. They can't just focus and take our strength away, because that'll just open up Addison, or it's going to open up Hawk, and they're going to pay for it. So they're going to have to be more respectful and show a little bit more respect. Now, man, the AI sucks. But either way, the usage for our quarterback in the red zone is going to be huge when we have Jordan Addison, because when he's there, all of a sudden they have to account for everything. Are we going to throw the fade to Jefferson in the corner? Are we going to do a nice quick slant to the post with Jordan Addison? Are we going to have a bootleg rollout and throw it to Hawkinson, right? There's so much that they have to account for that it is going to be awesome to see what we can produce in the red zone this week. So I'm extremely, extremely excited for Jordan Addison's return. Hey, what's going on, DOD? Skull to the bowl. That's right. We are going to be making some splashes, young man, or sir, good sir. But thank you for joining us today here on the Purple and Gold Bars show. So again, that is another big factor that I think is going to be really screwing with these Steelers going forward. But with all that being said, let's go into talking about this injury report, because now I did manage to get mostly the updated injury report. So we got a bunch of problems here. I guess we got a bunch of outs. So we got Van Ginkel is out now. Hargrave is questionable, but I told him to put probable, even though. But either way, so we got Hargrave, which was limited in practice. Van Ginkel did not participate, and he's already been ruled out. McCarthy has also been ruled out. Donovan Jackson is not probable. He's definitely out after that wrist injury. Gosh darn it, AI generations, Metellus, Kelly, and School are all probable. So when it comes to the injury bug and our guys coming back from injury, we are looking good. Now let's look at the Steelers. And now this isn't the most updated. Now I do realize that the Friday one came out, so I have only these ones. So I do apologize. But Highsmith is still dealing with a neck injury, and is already out, I believe, as well as Elliott. Porter Jr. is probable, and as well as we got another hamstring here on the last. So, I will try to get an updated here Vikings report, injury report for both the Vikings and the Steelers. So either way, both teams are a little bit injured, and it is kind of rough to see what's going on, right? So, but it's okay. It is football. You are supposed to battle through injuries and overcome adversity like that. Now, the controversy of the hour. Robert Saleh comes out with a heck of a, I don't know, accusation, I guess you could say. Essentially, what he said is the Jaguars and the McVay O'Connell tree are elite at legal sign stealing, but I was a little bit more nuanced. It's sign decoding, because as he mentions in the article that we're about to pull up here, he definitely said everything that they do is legal. So now, mind you, is this about taking an advantage and one of those things where like you're thinking outside the box and trying to do everything you can to bring in as much information or data for you to kind of make the best decisions, or is it straight up cheating? I am more on the side of definitely it's more gamesmanship than cheating. So, maybe Robert Saleh is still a little bit salty after we went into the London game last year, and I'm pretty sure he got fired after we embarrassed Aaron Rodgers and those Jets in that London game. So maybe he's still a little bit butthurt. Maybe it's all talk, but he's acting like, if the Jaguars beat us, it's got to be because they're really good at signal call or signal stealing. You know what, Robert Saleh, eat a fat one, if you know what I mean. How about how about you be a man and start worrying about the things that you can control instead of the things you can't control? And guess what? Teams are going to be looking to think outside of the box, are going to be looking to take advantage of things, whether that's analytics, whether that's gamemanship situations like this, whatever it is. And if it's deemed legal and if it's not against the rule book, then guess what? It's your job to prepare your team for such things and come up with ingenious solutions to overcome that problem. And so how about you do that instead of freaking complaining like a freaking woman? Okay. How about that? How about that? How about that? Freaking idiot. So that's my 2 cents on the stupid allegations. But let's pull up the article and we will see together here. So Robert Saleh makes bold claims about Kevin O'Connell and Vikings coaches, essentially an indirect shot at us, right? So, ooh, boy, come on now. So now let's jump forward to here. To the Niners are facing the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 4, with the Jags being led by first-year head coach Liam Cohen. When Cohen, who was formerly the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator, accepted the job over the offseason. He hired several members of O'Connell's staff to join him, and according to Saleh, that presents a challenge to San Francisco this week because O'Connell and his staff in Minnesota have a signal stealing system in place that the Jags might be utilizing today. Absolute Bonkers. I can't believe. Bro, like I said, how about you control what you can control and stop whining like a little biatch, okay? Freaking, you're supposed to be this defensive minded guru. How about you come up with some schemes and stuff that, regardless if they know what the hell's going on, it's just unbeatable? How about that? How about you do better at your job, bro? Gosh, man, this guy's an idiot. And maybe if you were that good and you were smart and you could freaking think outside the box and freaking will your team to win through strategy, through motivation, whatever it was, maybe you'd still be a head coach, buddy. But guess what? You aren't. And you're a bum that ended up crawling back to where you belong because they're the only ones that would give you any reasonable opportunity that you felt. So, how about you shut up and suck a big one? Now, uh, this is a direct quote from him. He said, Liam and his staff, a couple of guys coming from Minnesota, they've got legally a really advanced signal stealing type system where they always find a way to put themselves in advantageous situation. So you mean that like every single team is always looking to try to capitalize on any advantage they can get? Oh, it's like when you see a team, their starting safety goes down, they just throw into the backup over and over and over, just like that. You're going to complain about that? Is that cheating, Mr. Sala? How about, like I said, you grow a pair and you freaking do your job? How about that? Do your job. And so that way, even if they can figure out what your signals are, it doesn't matter. How about that? How about that? Come on, bro. But we'll, so that is, needless to say, the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, right? So he goes on to say they do a great job with it. So we've got to be great with our signals and we got to be great with our communication to combat some of the tells we might have on the field. They're almost elite in that regard. The whole entire tree. Wow. Tell me you're jealous without telling me you're jealous, Mr. Robert Saleh. Unfrickin' believable, man. Look at that stare by KOC. He's like looking deep into his freaking eyes right there. Man, Robert Saleh, you continue to make a fool out of yourself. And bro, if the 49ers didn't have an existing relationship with you, you'd be probably trying to get a freaking job in freaking college football right now. Remember when you tried to get a job with the Packers and they said you were there for what, like a weekend or two, a consultant last year, and they just said, yeah, we don't want you. That's pretty embarrassing, bro. So how about you shut the F up, do what you're supposed to do, and prepare your defense, and freaking be a man. Okay? Be a man. Lead with some example and lead with some freaking pride and say, you know what? I don't care what they're doing to try to get every advantage over us. We're going to do the same. We're going to find ways we can capitalize on advantages that we can create, and then we can freaking win this game. How about you be a man and say something like that? Oh my God, this guy pisses me off. Sorry, guys. Sorry I crashed out a little bit there on Robert Saleh, but it just irks me. It irks me because all he's really saying is, if we lose, it's because of that, and it's nothing else. So we're basically setting up, bitch, fucking grow a pair, okay? Gosh darn it. Anyways, let's move on. I gotta add the next slide. Good Lord, what a tool, man. All right, here we go. Let's move on. Let us move on from this idiot. And that's my 2 cents on that stupid controversy. But we got some key matchups here when Vikings have the ball. Wentz needs to maintain a quick game and, focus on that play action. He can't be standing in the pocket, holding the ball. We saw what happens we saw what happens when he does, and he does not have the legs to just bust out like Sam does or like even JJ does. So he needs to be quick, decisive, get the ball out, and if it's not there, throw it away. Live to play another down. You're a veteran quarterback, play like one. And then we need to see the next matchup is going to be awesome because Mason and Jordan Mason and the Steelers run defense, which is looking raggedy as all hell. Oh, that O-line, those trenches are looking rough for the Steelers. So although they are still could potentially just be kind of finding their way, kind of getting that gear. Let's not forget that Aaron Rodgers joined the team late in the offseason, so he didn't get a full OTAs, all that fun stuff. So it's going to take some time, right? This very well be the game that everything clicks for them. Their defense starts finding their groove and finding their form from last year. A-Rod might start, mixing his freaking philosophy with their offensive coordinator's philosophy, and it might start actually producing. So that's always a possibility. So that's why it's extremely important that Jordan Mason runs the ball hard and keeps Aaron Rodgers off the field, preventing him from getting warm, kind of getting into a rhythm, as well as given the added benefit of getting more offensive drives to Carson Wentz, because he's not going to be perfect. He's not going to be going down every single drive in scoring. So he needs to get as much volume as possible so he can get as many field goals and touchdowns as he can. That way we can beat this, this rusty Steelers team. I don't want to say that they're busted or broken or something's wrong, because I understand the value of preseason games. I've been harping on this for years now, that it's ridiculous. We used to have a week 3 we used to call it the dress rehearsal, where everybody used to play their entire first half of their starters so we could get a good feel of what to expect going into week 1. And on top of that, the starters would play a fair amount in preseason in general, at least one drive a game, to try to get us, to get that rust off. We don't do that anymore. That's why we see a bunch of teams that should be good struggle, and teams that are supposed randomly good for the first 2-3 weeks of the season, and then they fizzle out and they kind of fall into where we expected them to be. So I'm not going to be making the crucial mistake of diving too deep into the sample size of the Steelers, because I know that is setting myself up for failure. But what I can do is draw some conclusions and go, hey, these are some of the areas that they're still struggling and still trying to find their way in. And if we can capitalize in these areas before they start running this season, we might be able to take advantage and capitalize, because sometimes it's better when you face a team than if your team in general or then if your team is better, right? So like we faced a bunch of teams last year, early part of the season, when they still weren't up to that state, and we were able to steal a bunch of wins because of what we were able to accomplish on defense and with Sam Darnold. Similar, so I want that to happen for us today. We catch these Steelers before they've hit their stride this year and kind of steal one for us. So that's going to be a massive matchup for us to watch. And then Addison against whoever they put up against them, right? Because he is going to be open, and he's going to, although he might be a little rusty since this is his first game, he's going to be a problem. He's got great route running. I know he's a little bit small, undersized, and I know off the press he can be kind of thrown off his routes in general, but for the most part, he is a stud when it comes to route running and his ability to catch balls. So I'm expecting a lot of good things out of Jordison when he's targeted and when he's not targeted, because he is going to demand that kind of respect. So it's going to be awesome to see who matches up against Addison, how they go ahead and play him. So keep an eye on that matchup. Now, when we look at the Steelers, right, we need to see, can they pass protect, right? Aaron Rodgers, right? Just like we do, right? Well, TJ Watt was resting this week, so hopefully his pass rush is going to be something to watch and in general to see if they kind of get into the swing of things in compared to our pass protection, right? Christian Darrisaw is back, so that is definitely a great sign. He is definitely a big eraser when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings, and that O-line. As soon as he came back, that O-line looked incredibly different. So I expect that to continue this week. And then Cameron Hayward, that guy, he is a stud. He's a veteran. He's got a ton of moves. He's wily. He's sneaky. Every attribute they can say, he's just a great player that we have to match up well against and be aware at all times, because him, TJ Watt, they got a lot of players on defense, specifically in that pass rush, that could really put a wrench in things. But if we do a great job of running away from the pressure and making sure that Jordan Mason continues to grind them out, even if it's at 4, 5, 6 yard runs consistently over and over again, that just means that their defense is going to be on the field much longer, and they will be sucking wind earlier in the game. Hands on hips is what I'm looking to see, hopefully early in the second quarter, but I wouldn't be surprised if it starts to happen in the third. Now, let's move on to the next slide. Let me add that one here. Now, let's look at the matchup when the Steelers have the ball. Oh, I don't know what that was. Okay, anyways, so when the Steelers have the ball, we need to make sure that Rodgers stays under pressure. Their O-line has been struggling, and so that's an area that we can try to capitalize before they start finding that continuity and start playing better, right? Before they start coming up with a better scheme, or their offensive line coach starts developing something that will work long-term in the season. We need to catch them while they're still struggling. So that pass pressure needs to be top tier for us to have a great outing against these Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Flores' blitz rate has been up and down at times, right? Week one, we heard from the Bengals or from the Browns that they were just completely thrown off by the fact that the lack of pressure that Brian Flores sent in the first half, and then completely discombobulated in the second half. And then fast forward to last week, once we had Harrison Smith out there, Old Faithful, he was able to do a lot more things. There was a lot more movement pre-snap, a lot of lining up and making it look like we got one thing out there, and then switching to another at the last second, and then in the actual very last second, and another switch, right? So that is going to continue to be a factor. The scheme that Brian Flores cooks up and the pressure that we can dial up is going to be something to be wondered and to be worried about if you're a Steelers fan, right? So now, let's be real though. Even though that can be all that can be true, DK Metcalf can really break the game open at any given time, right? He can catch a screen pass and take it to the house. You know, he's a big, strong boy, strong man. Actually, now he's not a rookie anymore, but he's a big, strong man. So he could easily break a tackle, and then he's got breakaway speed. He could really turn this game upside down, even with these short plays or passes behind the line of scrimmage, or just short passes in general that the Steelers have been mostly throwing this season, right? So now we do have our superstar that kind of emerged last week with Isaiah Rodgers. You know, hopefully he can keep up that turnover streak and continue to add pressure. But hopefully we have the door open for another breakout, right? So we still have a bunch of guys injured. So there's going to be guys stepping up, next man up mentality. And on some of these guys, this is their opportunity to show that they've arrived. Isaiah Rodgers did it last week. It could very well be Dallas Turner this week. It could be anybody else. So I'm excited to see what we're able to produce, and hopefully we get another standout performance by one of our defensive players. Let's see here. What was the next slide? Now, let's move on to the 3 keys of victory. Now, we need to win early downs versus the run. We cannot let these Steelers set up a run game, because at that point it starts opening up their offense. And if we can shut that down, they become even more one-dimensional and easier to capitalize on. We need to protect the edges. Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill need to be strong, and everybody else, like in pass protection from our backs, have to do their job picking up the blitz as well as chipping on the way out if it is needed based on what they see ahead of them, in front of them, right? So TJ Watt, you know, if Cam Akers is going, it knows he's going to be coming out of the backfield to try to catch a nice pass out of the flat, bro. If you're going out the same side as TJ Watt, you got to chip him on the way out and create more time for Carson Wentz, because he needs that time. He's immobile. He's a statue back there. So we can't afford the pass protection to break down, and these edges are going to be the biggest factor. Now, we need to limit explosive runs. DK Metcalf, explosive runs and explosive plays not explosive runs. We need to limit explosive plays to DK Metcalf. Like I said, he is a game breaker. He could easily, like I said, catch a screen pass, break 2 or 3 tackles, and go for 40, 50, 60 yards, or even to the house. He is a dynamic player. He definitely has that ability to break games wide open and turn a game that looks like it's completely out of control, and all of a sudden throw the momentum the other way, and all of a sudden we're the ones reeling. So I do not want to see DK Metcalf explode or have any of these plays that are just momentum changing, because that will be a massive problem for this team. Well, for any team in general, right? So something that we need to focus on, because DK is a beast. Let's be real. So let's move on. I want to talk about some bold predictions here. Now, first and foremost, Jordan Mason is running for well over 100 plus yards. I put 100 plus there, but I want to lean closer to like 140 to 160. I feel like this game we're going to have more confidence. He's going to get more plays. And after we saw what he did last week, I feel like I'm hoping that those results will cause us to lean more into his rushing. And on top of that, he's got that potential to break one out as well. So let's use him to our advantage. Let's break down that defensive line. Let's keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline. Jordan Mason for 100 plus yards in his game for sure. Addison, I got him coming in at 633 yards and a touchdown. I know it's not going to be a massive 115-yard freaking game or nothing like that, but I feel like even with a little bit of a rust, he'll still be good for a good 63 yards and a touchdown, because he is dynamic. And those 63 yards will be a nice quiet yards, but they're going to be impactful. They're going to come at times where we're like, oh man, we really need to get these 4 yards. He'll bust one out for like 10. You know what I mean? Like, he's that dude. So I'm excited to have him and Jordan Addison reunited back on there. And then I have a bold prediction that Isaiah Rodgers continues his takeaway streak. I feel like it's either going to be another forced fumble or a pick. With Harrison Smith out there, it's incredible to see what this team can do with that leadership and that guidance on the field, because he's got vision and he sees things with the football IQ that he has is just on another level. Last week, we saw him basically throw Ivan Pace Jr. to the side and be like, stand here. That's where you're supposed to be. And he called some stuff out. And guess what? Ivan Pace Jr. made that tackle, and he looked probably the best that he has all year, right? In my opinion, I think Ivan Pace Jr. is one of those guys. He's like a pit bull. You freaking give him a target, you let him go, you say sick, and he just goes, right? He doesn't think, he just reacts and acts on instinct alone. So when we have Blake Cashman out there, when we have Harrison Smith out there, I think he's just that much more dangerous, because he doesn't have to think, he doesn't have to second guess anything. He just does what everybody else is telling him to do, and then he just explodes and produces, right? So I'm hoping that that continues to be the case. And I hope that Isaiah Rodgers continues with another great performance this week. Although it's not going to be another 99.9, but I'm hoping he does a great job coming up with a interception or maybe another forced fumble, because I feel like that intuition, 3 forced fumble. No, he had 3, right? He had because one he didn't recover, one against Jamar Chase, one against T. Higgs, and then was he was the one that punched out the one for the running back too, right? So like, he has, I don't know, that vision. That's just one of those things. Maybe he's maybe he used to box or something, or whatever the heck it is. He's got that hand-eye coordination. He's punching them out. I don't know what it is, young man, but whatever you're doing, whatever you see out there, whatever you're drinking or smoking before, do double or triple this time around, because whatever that is, you're doing right. So let's move on to the next slide. All right, so let's I wanted to stop and kind of transition, slow down to the Dublin storylines, right? You know, it's the historic first game in Ireland, right? Now the Pittsburgh Steelers dominate in fan numbers in Dublin, right? So it's not it's gonna definitely feel like home field advantage for the Steelers. I just hope that it's not going to be as impactful as real home field advantage here in the States. You know, they're expecting over 80,000 fans in the stands, which is a massive crowd. There's going to be citywide events. It's just going to be such a fun time. So if you guys have made the trip out there and you guys are there already enjoying your time in Ireland, man, I am truly jealous because that is going to be an incredible atmosphere, regardless of whether you're a Steelers fan or a Vikings fan. So that's why I want to take a small moment to talk about that because I think it does warrant it does warrant us talking about it, right? And then last but not least, I want to talk about, let's see here. Hold on a sec. Where is it? Now, now I want to go back and talk about the quarterback controversy. JJ McCarthy versus Carson Wentz. Now, plain and simple, we need to stop pretending that there's a quarterback controversy in Minnesota. There isn't. Carson Wentz could throw for 500 yards every game and it still doesn't matter. This season has to be about JJ McCarthy. Okay? Let's remember how we got here. We hired Kevin O'Connell in 2022 with the entire philosophy of this staff building a QB-friendly offense, right? Which we've done. We've seen a bunch of quarterbacks come in. Samuel, what's going on, buddy? Quarterbacks to come in on short notice and perform well because of how Kevin O'Connell has set up this offense and how he guides quarterbacks through it, right? On top of that, in 2024, we drafted JJ McCarthy after spending 3 years preparing and getting ourselves to a point where we've built a roster, ironed out a lot of the issues, like all the careless turnovers and flags that we used to get in year one. We've ironed that out until last year, where we kind of proved that we can support just about any quarterback through whatever is thrown our way in the season, right? So, why are we going to throw away all that preparation, all that stuff after 2 games just because Carson Wentz had a good game against a trash team? Let's be real. Me and you probably could have won that game at quarterback, and we probably wouldn't have even had to throw a touchdown. All we would have had to do was not turn over the ball and hand off the ball a bunch of times. We literally almost every single quarterback in the league that starts today in this league would have easily won that game last week. Let's be real. So we need to dial it down and realize that it was more to do with the defensive scheme and our coaching and our preparation in game planning than what Carson Wentz can do. It's not like he was thrown in there last minute and said, or you know what I mean, like day of. We don't know. JJ's kind of healthy and he's been preparing and he took half the reps, and then Carson, and then all of a sudden we're like, we're just gonna throw him out there, and then he just balled out and threw for 400 yards and carried the team. That's not what happened. Okay, so let's pump the brakes on that. Now, immediately we got to remember that when we moved on from Sam Darnold, it was obvious, the writing was on the wall. This is JJ's team, and we are definitely committing to see what he has, because that is what we've been preparing to do for the better part of 4 years. So it just doesn't seem logical. It doesn't seem smart. On top of, when you step back and look at the greater picture, it is actually a stupid decision. Right now, the media's, they're pushing it, like we got YouTubers and freaking the media. John Middlecamp put out a video today. He was like, oh, did they make a mistake? And people are talking like that. And I'm like, bro, it's too soon. This is the key freaking mistake of drawing too much out of a small sample size. Like I've been saying, when you draw conclusions from a small sample size, all you get is randomness masquerading as meaning. So of course it seems like that's a plausible option, but in reality it's actually something that can completely destroy this team if it plays out entirely, right? So everybody's talking about the inconsistency, this and that, whatever. You know what? Since when did we forget that rookies are allowed to look overwhelmed at the NFL speed? When did we forget that rookies are allowed to make mistakes? When did we forget that rookies are allowed to take a ton of sacks? When did we forget that rookies are supposed to struggle in their first year and they're supposed to be just showing flashes? I get it. Everybody's impatient. They see guys like Jaden Daniels or freaking, just name any exception to the rule. And they go, look at what he did. Look at CJ Stroud. Well, look at CJ Stroud now. Is he looking like a top-tier quarterback? No. Things are not linear when it comes to quarterback development. I have trained people physically as a personal trainer before I moved back into the corporate world, and I've trained a ton of people in a ton of different roles. So I have seen development on the physical scale as well as on the mental scale, and every single time, without fail, development is not linear. I have seen guys come in here into the gym and they just give her hard for me and they do everything right. In that first month, they lose 20, 30 pounds. And then the next month, the next 2, 3 months, they just plateau. Something changes. Maybe whatever it is, maybe there's external factors that are at play. There are just so many different things. Sometimes some people get to the point where they see such success at the very beginning that they just let off the gas and they don't put the emphasis that they used to into their development like before, because they just get satisfied and they think, oh, I got this. And then they hit adversity and they crash and fail, and they have to go back to that learner's mindset and refocus on their development. I've seen it time and time again. I've seen people come that I've hired that I've literally said on day one, this guy, I would be surprised if he is still here within 3 months. And I've also seen the guy that starts and looks amazing. And then 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 2 years down the road, the guy that I would have never, ever banked or bet anything on, he's the one that's still here. And the guy that looked like he was going to be the next superstar is no longer with the company. It's because development is not linear. Let me repeat. Development in general is not linear, and it's even more so the case in the NFL. Now, I want to make it clear that my stance is that winning now is a mirage, okay? I don't care how well Carson Wentz does in the next 2 weeks. He could throw for 500 yards every single game, 5 touchdowns. I could care less. And vice versa, I don't care if when JJ takes back over, if we don't win a single game with him. I don't care. Because right now, winning with Wentz isn't really winning. At best, we can do something similar that we did last year. We have a tremendous regular season where we string enough wins together to get us into the playoffs. We might be able to, or sneak into the playoffs. And then we might be able to, beat a flawed wild card team. But as soon as we actually face a contender or a team that's actually well balanced, we will get exposed or Carson Wentz will get exposed just like Sam Darnold got exposed last year. This year, we don't even know if Sam Darnold has learned from last year's meltdown in week 17 and then in against the Rams, if any of that has actually translated to this year. We don't know. The sample size is too small. At the way that it's going right now, it looks like they're going to be a playoff team, and we're going to see what happens when he faces adversity in the playoffs. I still think, because I know how development goes, that he might do better this year, but some of those things are still going to be a factor for him. I feel like he's got this year or next year before we can finally say, okay, you can win with Sam Darnold. He has learned, and we've seen in the last 2 playoff performances that he has pushed past that narrative, and that self-confidence in him is now at an all-time high where we can actually trust him to win in the playoffs and or a Super Bowl. That's not what we're going to get from Carson Wentz, okay? Carson Wentz has been on 6 different teams in 6 years. Good quarterbacks, that doesn't happen to. I don't care. The guy had one of his best seasons with Indy, and what happened? They let him go because they know the writing on the wall. They know that the flaws that he has, good teams will exploit in the playoffs. And then guess what? What happens after let's say we bank on that, okay? What happens after that? We make the playoffs. We have another ugly loss in the playoffs, and as a result, we get more divided, more broken, and we get closer and closer to losing the locker room, and closer to a point where people just move on. Free agents don't re-sign, and this team falls apart. Then what happens next year? Because we rolled the hot hand with Carson Wentz and JJ didn't get any meaningful reps this year. What happens next year when we throw him out there and he struggles? Carson Wentz will probably go land a contract somewhere else because of the whole Baker Mayfield effect or the whole KOC effect or whatever you want to call it. And then he's going to go over there, go to the next team and show his limitations, and we'll be looked like we'll be looked to make like a laughing stock for thinking that we even had a chance with him. Then we're going to go, oh, we got Mac Jones now, or some other somehow we got Trevor Lawrence. We're going to fix him. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. We'll do the quarterback carousel. And then at the end of the year, they're going to go, we don't know what we have with JJ. We might as well just move on. We're going to run with whoever we have, and we're either going to barely make the playoffs or not make it at all. And then have another dreadful loss in the playoffs because we're going to be a flawed team. And then what? 3 bad losses in the playoffs in a row. Do you think Brian Flores stays after that? Do you think some of these defensive players that are going to be coming up on and going into free agency will be like, yeah, I really want to stay here? They seem to have figured it out. Do you think that these defensive players that are excited to come play for B-Flow are going to be excited anymore after 3 pathetic performances in the playoffs? No, not at all. And then what happens? Worst case scenario, KOC gets fired. And then we have to bring somebody else in. Or best case scenario, he's just on the hot seat and he could possibly get fired in middle of the season if it just goes wrong. And what we're left with is finding a veteran quarterback to try to win in that last-ditch effort. And I don't know. Those are all freaking Hail Marys with extremely low percentages, right? So it's much more important for us to suffer the consequences this year and this year alone in order to see what we have. Because guess what? If JJ McCarthy plays the entire season and he wins us only 8 games, or he doesn't win any games, whatever the fact is, we will actually have a sample size to draw real conclusions from and then determine if he actually has a chance to becoming a franchise quarterback. Instead of potentially doing this quarterback carousel for 2 years and potentially destroying his confidence, and then all of a sudden we got nothing. Do you guys want that? Do you guys want to stay mediocre and have to literally hitch your freaking your wagon to the Hail Mary possibility of, well, Carson Wentz could light fire and turn into MVP Carson Wentz again? It's possible, guys. I swear it is possible. No, get your freaking heads out of your asses and realize what you're actually asking for. Because based on my calculations, if we stick with JJ McCarthy, we got a 35% he could be the guy. We got a 35% chance that he could not be the guy, just based on just raw probabilities, okay? When you put that together, we have a 70% chance either way to find out what we have with JJ, which will give us clarity and a direct, clear path forward. At that point, we can go, you know what? He's not the guy. He either needs to sit for another couple of years, or we need to move on and let somebody else figure him out and waste that time. And we're gonna have to go out and poach a veteran quarterback that actually gives us a chance to win. So the next year, when this roster is even more hungry and more ready to shut everybody's mouths up, they have a quarterback that can actually get him there and get him done. If you ride with Wentz, we got a 50% chance we might sneak into the playoffs, maybe even win enough games to actually earn a divisional position, right? What happens then? We got a 40% chance that the quarterback controversy rolls over to next year, and a 60% chance for long-term collapse. I'll say that again. We have if we decide to roll with Carson Wentz, we have a 60% chance of long-term collapse. And if that doesn't scare you, I just don't know what will. Honest to God. I get it. Everybody's so desperate to win a Super Bowl. I am too. But I am also capable of stepping back and looking at the bigger picture and looking at probabilities instead of possibilities. If I was constantly looking at possibilities, I would pick a random dark horse team every year and be like, I'm putting $1,000 on that team because I just have a feeling. Okay, I'm not the type of guy to walk into the casino and put fucking $1,000 on 13 because it's possible that could come up next. You'd be a freaking moron to do so, and we would be idiots if we decided to basically guarantee ourselves a future collapse. We would look worse than the Browns. We would look worse than those dumpster fired Lions of old. We look worse than the Bears. And we would be stuck in fourth or third place over the next few years after we do another whole rebuild and have to find another coach and have to do all that BS all over again. And do you guys want to wait another 4, 5, 6 years before we start getting to the same point that we are now just because you're impatient? You want to see what we can do with Carson Wentz? Come on, get a freaking clue, guys. Hold. What happened, guys? Did your balls fucking drop and fall out of your nutsack? Show some freaking pride. We're not delusional Bears fans. We're not brain dead Packers fans, and we're not blind as fuck Lions fans. Show some grace, show some dignity, show some class, and freaking wait until everything plays out. Because if we were to freaking go by those standards, last year we would have been like, well, it's just a matter of time. Sam Darnold's gonna, it's pumpkin watch. By like week 4 or 5, he's just gonna start losing out. And I'm just gonna stop watching football this season and just ignore it. And we'll just see what happens next year. You know what happened? You would have missed the whole freaking season where we actually won 14 games and actually made something fun out of a season that we were just transitioning in. So how about you freaking find your resolve? How about you open up your mind into different perspectives and really think about the long-term effects of what you are asking for? Because what you're really asking for is to open the door for this team to collapse and for us to lose the freaking locker room and for Brian Flores to freaking give up and move on. Because if you think that we can freaking make it work, even after Brian Flores and his unique way of freaking playing defense, you think we're just going to bring in some Joe Schmo average defensive coordinator and go back to just like a hustle first, like hard nosed defense like the Bears, for example, or the Broncos, and just think that we're going to become purple rain again? No. That doesn't happen, guys. We've been blessed enough to get all these ingredients that teams in our position, other teams that are in lower position, actually, I should better say, would freaking kill to have. Do you think how many teams in this league in a heartbeat would trade coaches with us? I'd venture to say at least 20 teams. How many teams would go ahead and switch offensive coordinators with us? Damn near every single one. Maybe Spags not, but in the Chiefs, but damn well at least 20 teams. How many teams wish they had such a strong roster and team that they could take a guy that everybody said was a freaking bust and couldn't do anything in this league and carry him to 14 wins? Just about every team in the NFL would want that. And that's what we're sitting in here, and you guys are complaining, acting like freaking little girls because you see 2 games and it didn't go the way that you expected because you had diluted perspective and expectations. Did you honestly think that JJ McCarthy was going to go out there and look better than Jaden Daniels last year, or look like a quarterback that we've never seen in history and just ride into the freaking into the season and win 16 games like freaking Dan Marino? Or did you have a realistic perspective and go, hey, you know what? Rookie quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks that are classified developmental in their scouting report, usually only show flashes and a lot of growing pains in their season, in their opening season. Because if you had that mindset, like I did, you wouldn't be worried. You'd be like, let's just freaking figure it out. Let's let them go, because I trust that in this system and in this team, even with a rookie quarterback suffering from growing pains, we still have the roster to win games and steal games even when he struggles. We saw that in week 1. So, before I'm just freaking crashing out a little bit, guys. Sorry for I'm going to take a moment. What's going on, Eric? Samuel, thank you for joining. DOD, thank you for hanging out with me. Samuel is a real one. He's always here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and just enduring my crash out and my perspective on this situation. And let me finish out with this statement here that I kind of crafted out, which I hope is in fact impactful. I hope I used to be really good at case studies and essays in college and university. So I hope I can still. So hopefully this is impactful for you. Okay. Winning now with Carson Wentz isn't winning. It's delaying the inevitable. We already know his ceiling. He can get you into the playoffs, but he'll collapse against a complete team. I'd rather lose every game with JJ and know the truth than waste another 3 years pretending a journeyman can take us to the promised land. Only delusional Bears fans think like that. Only brain dead Jordan Love freaking supporters. Oh, he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Only morons like that, Packers fans, think like that. Blind like a freaking bat, like the Lions fans are, would think like that. Last year at the end of the season, we did a Lions versus Vikings kind of like crossover stream, and they were harping so much about Sam Darnold and how he's going to collapse in the playoffs and this and that. And I promptly reminded them, hey, bro, you guys have the exact same quarterback that we do, except for yours is like 4 or 5 years ahead of him. Did you forget that the Rams basically gave him to you? He was basically considered a quarterback that you couldn't win a Super Bowl with. His ceiling was already set. A Super Bowl caliber team gave up on him and then went and won a Super Bowl without him, with Matt Stafford, with the guy that your organization, Detroit Lions, couldn't do nothing with. Like you couldn't do anything with Megatron, like you couldn't do anything with Barry Sanders, like you won't be able to do anything with Jahmyr Gibbs. And like he will most likely retire at a young age because he will fall out of love with football because of your trash organization and your inability to freaking open your eyes and see what's in front of you. I'm sorry. I don't want to sit here and run the Sam Darnold experiment and wait 3-4 years like the Lions have until where they're a dominant team. Last year, they were supposed to win the Super Bowl, remember? They're the front runners. It's theirs. We might as well not even play the season, remember? They're that damn good. Remember, people play them and they lose the next 2 games because the Lions are so dominant. What happened to that? Goff went out there and did the exact same thing in the playoffs that freaking Sam Darnold did last year, except for he was 4 years further down the line than Sam Darnold is. I'm sorry, I don't want that. I don't want that. I do not want that freaking garbage. I'm sick and tired of getting so freaking close to having a team that can actually do it, for us to mess up and hitch our freaking band or our wagon onto some veteran or some freaking gimmick to try to get us over the top. No, I'm sick and tired of it. Let's figure out what this kid has. Let's figure it out if he is or he isn't, so then we can make a decision definitively at the end of the season. Because that is the smartest decision in order to avoid a full team collapse in the future. Whew. Okay, let me settle down because that topic really gets me. And the thing is, what pisses me off is we even got like small channels, like freaking, uh, like well, it used to be called. His channel used to be called Minnesota Tim, and now he's literally the freaking. He's the poor man's Mike Florio, bro. This guy used to be such a freaking a good Vikings content creator. They used to be optimistic. They used to freaking, uplift our franchise and our organization. He rebrands his freaking channel to whatever, the Brawl with Paul and all this bullshit. And now he's doing this shtick of doing freaking the Mike Florio impression, basically a hater in Vikings clothing. For what? We it's idiots like that. It's the mainstream media that pushes these controversies that get in the minds of our Vikings fans, and they turn on each other and they fight, and they just don't get to enjoy the season and enjoy the ride, and it just pisses me off, bro. Our job as Vikings content creators or fans in general is to bring ourselves together despite our disagreements. I have a Vikings tattoo on my leg. I have multiple Vikings jerseys. I bleed purple and gold, just like the man Isaac, the man that bleeds purple and gold. I do too. Now that is a great content creator there. He always, although he does, like, I'm not saying let's disregard all the potential pitfalls or the negative narratives and stuff like that. I'm just saying it's our freaking job to turn down the freaking temperature and freaking uplift our teams and not make it worse. We already don't even get the national attention. So why do our Vikings creators keep throwing us under the bus? It's unbelievable to me. We need we need to stop this bullshit. And that'll be the end of it. But good gravy, man. Like it just literally it frustrates me to no extent, guys. And the thing is that maybe I have to constantly remind myself that my educational background and my experience also gives me the benefit of always to one, never draw conclusions from small sample sizes, because I know the problem with that, and I understand development at a whole bunch of different levels, so I can step back and have a different perspective and kind of keep that. And I understand that not everybody can do that. And what I think is common knowledge or common sense isn't common knowledge, right? So I have to really control my frustrations with people. But go check out Julian Lucas Sports. He does a great job. Go check out some of his most recent videos on the Minnesota Vikings. If you guys like good football talk, good analysis, I only go off of my education and my experience that I can draw parallels from, and like the 20 plus years, almost 20 years of watching football, and that my football eye has developed to a point where I can see that things aren't right. I just don't have the football IQ like Julian does to be able to explain it to you in X's and O's. But thank goodness he has his channel, because he does a great job of that. I just come here and I give you an outside of the box perspective, some wild speculation, and hopefully try to uplift you guys to make you guys feel good about this Minnesota Vikings team, because gosh darn it, guys, we have one of the best rosters in the NFL. Arguably, no, it's not arguably. We have the best roster in the NFC, and arguably the best roster in the NFL. I don't care what anybody says. A roster that can take a guy that's supposed to be a draft bust and carry him to 14 wins, that is a top tier roster that rivals any roster, any top roster in the NFL. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Any other? Let me just type that. We got Samuel, DOD, everybody. Any questions in the chat, guys? Let me know what you guys think about my perspective, my analysis. Any questions, comments, concerns? Right now, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. We are going to be going live every single day, giving you guys, you know, color commentary, some wild speculation, talking Vikings. We do hot take review, trying to give you as much Vikings content to kind of help you get through the week and kind of battle all the negativity that we get from the mainstream media and even some of our own Viking content creators, guys. So please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. I hope to hit that by the end of the calendar year. And yeah, I really appreciate everybody. I love every single one of you. I don't care what fan base you're from. I still love you. I only want the best for everybody outside of football specifically. Maybe not for your team, because we are going to come in and, like one of my favorite content creators says, we're going to freaking walk into your house and beat the brakes off of you, okay? But it's all in love. The joshing, the trash talking, everything is all in good fun. And I mean, zero disrespect from it. I just want to engage and have fun with you guys. Some people like trash talking. Some people just like to be, only the fun stuff. But I appreciate every single one of you guys. And thank you so much for joining me today on the Purple and Goals Bar shows. You guys are truly incredible. You guys have a great day, and thank you for joining me today. Skål, everybody. Take care.